Good morning, comic fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm your ever-loving host, Shorty, and as promised today, I am reviewing Rare Flavours, spelled with a U, by Ramvi and Philip Andrade. And I could do everything I need to for this review in less than a minute, just by telling you to go and read a bunch of other stuff these people have done. Made this of Layla Starr, obviously, fantastic. Just these two people working together, fantastic. I've told you this repeatedly. Go and read this book, but I have 5 minutes, so why not fill some time? So let's start with Philip Andrade. He is an absolutely amazing artist. He has a skill with a smooth curved line, which makes it look effortless. And I say effortless because the other person I think of when I think of this kind of like smooth flowing line is Tradd Moore. Now, Tradd does like intense detail to the point that you can get lost in it. You can keep following these flowing lines and get sunk further and further into the art and what he's doing. And I absolutely adore him for that. But I prefer Andrade, because he makes it look effortless. It looks like he is sketching this in one take and then just handing it off to be colored, or even color it himself like on the same day. And it just looks like he does it with such style that he doesn't need a second for glance over. I'm sure there is way more to it than that, but the fact that he makes it look effortless is just phenomenal. But for some specifics, I'm going to start with the very first page. That is beautiful. Now, I like the fact that the decision has been made not to have quite a lot of text, not interfere with the art in any way, shape, or form. Later on, we do have the art on the page with it, but this is our main character looking at some epic art there. It's fantastic because it gives a sense of scale of the story, the epic mythology going on here, but also the scale of this gentleman. He is built in a different way. We also, over the next couple of pages, so no spoilers, this is literally a very early thing we find out, realise the guy looking at the painting is the guy depicted in the painting, the big guy. He is literally a creature from mythology who has been hiding or on the down low for a very long time, and he is going to basically come out of retirement, shall we say. It has a little hint of Hannibal to it, in a certain degree. But there's another stronger hint I get, which I'll get to later on, because that is worth delving into properly. There's also a fantastic trick just on the next page where we see very up close what we mean by that is the same person. I love that. That is just a wonderful little two-panel thing. And it's that throughout. It is simplistic, bold, intuitive, just great to look at. There is literally no bad panel in this entire thing. On to the writing then. I could again just tell you all the things that he does really, really well and it'd be easy because I've done it before, but instead I'm going to point out the one thing he did which I usually hate in comic books, in fact in any fiction, which is a story within a story, and sometimes a story within a story within a story. The worst offender is one is Patrick Rothfuss in The Name of the Wind, where the entire base of the story is one guy being interviewed by somebody else, and then at some point he tells the guy as part of the story that he then told the story to somebody else, and then tells him that entire story as if it's a third person kind of thing of somebody telling it. And honestly, I was just, what is the point of this? Like, there's got to be a better way, a more authentic way of how people would actually discuss these kind of things. Use analogies, use subtext. Don't just literally tell me that this guy's telling a story and this is the exact story he's telling. I found it very, very frustrating. There's this thing in this book which is similar, not entirely the same, but I must have been 4 or 5 panels deep before I realised that's even what it was, because he interweaves these two split narratives within the story in such a way that they feel entirely natural, entirely part of this overarching story. And honestly, beautiful in its own way. One part of it is kind of just a recipe for making chai. And it's glorious. And here we get onto the crux of why I loved it, and it took me a while to get my head around exactly what it was doing that was so interesting to me. And it's because the vibe I got from it. Yes, it could have been Hannibal, and there is certainly elements of that there, and I'm not going to say it's not that, but the strongest one I got was Hellraiser. And yes, you're probably thinking, what on earth are you talking about? But yeah, there is a darkness to this comic book. The mythological creature we're talking about, the being in that painting, is not a hero. They do terrible things, and the main character is also going through some terrible things, but he's doing it because of a love of sensation, an absolute commitment to the finest experience he can possibly imagine, and what he's willing to do to accomplish it, and who he's willing to step over, and who he's willing to hurt. It's not 100% accurate. I'm not saying that you expect the Cenobite syrup or anything like that, but it is a sense of pleasure and experience being the most important thing. More than anything, more than what happens to anyone else. It is narcissistic, certainly, but it's also, it makes it slightly more sympathetic. this is not evil for the sake of evil. This is simply evil happening because there is a greater calling that he's answering. And I fell in love with it. The character is terrible, but I'm sympathetic and I want to see what happens. And I generally, all the other characters who get introduced, I care about all of them. And I'm worried that terrible things are going to happen to them because of their closeness to the villain. But I'm in. I'm 100% set. I can't wait for the rest of it, and I hope you pick this up too. If you missed out on the many Death of Layla Starr, do not miss out on this one because you will regret it. That's it from me for today. There's going to be more reviews coming. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe. Until then, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye.